Well, folks, we have a discussion today with one of my favorite jazz artists of the current age, and that is saying a lot. Bobo calls me a hater. Our engineer calls me a hater because I'm constantly telling him about the music that I'm not really a big fan of. But our guest that is coming up right now is one of my absolute favorites of all time. Just the quality of the music that he presents. The richness of his voice, his songwriting, it's just across the board. He is one of the beacons of light, I would say, in the current generation, and one of the reasons that I have great hope for the future of this music. And this is none other than the one and only Gregory Porter. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him. I'm guessing you probably know quite a bit about him already, but I'll give you just a very quick overview of his bio, and then we'll get into a discussion with Mr. Gregory Porter this morning. Gregory Porter is a Grammy-winning jazz vocalist and songwriter known for his rich baritone voice, signature flat cap, and deeply soulful storytelling. Blending jazz, gospel, soul, and blues, Porter's music transcends genres while staying rooted in Black American musical traditions. He was born in Bakersfield, California. He was heavily influenced by his church upbringing and the guidance of his mother, who encouraged his musical path. His breakout album, Liquid Spirit, we were down with Gregory way before that, but his breakout album, Liquid Spirit, earned international acclaim and a Grammy for Best Jazz Vocal Album. With songs that explored love, faith, social justice, and the human condition, Porter has become a global ambassador for modern jazz, earning devoted audiences in the U.S. and abroad. Beyond the stage, he's known for using his platform to address issues of equity and compassion. Whether performing at jazz festivals or speaking on matters of conscience, Porter continues to inspire with music that heals, uplifts, and connects. So welcome, Gregory Porter, to the front page.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be with you.
Okay, did we get it mostly right with that bio?
Oh, we got it mostly right.
Okay.
I was born in Sacramento.
Okay.
Lived a little bit in Los Angeles, and then most of my life I was raised in Bakersfield. Yeah.
Okay.
But all the roots are in Bakersfield, though.
Yeah, I think of you as a Bakersfield artist, and I think you've made that known. I think a lot of people do identify you with that city. Our producer, Danny Morrison, is also out of Bakersfield, so he's sending his hello as well. But I, as a singer and songwriter myself, the first thing I really want to make a connection with you on is the process of songwriting, Mr. Porter. That was the thing that drew me in to you. That was the thing that, in my opinion, distinguished you from a lot of other voices that were out there. And in the genre of jazz, as a lot of folks know, there can be the expectation that you're just out there covering the standards. And there are plenty of singers who are doing that, and they approach the music in that way. They really don't do a whole lot of original music. But you really started your career with Water, and I think that was all the way back in 2010?
Yeah.
Your first album, Water, at least the first one that we are aware of. I know there's always secret projects in the background,
Right, there were some of that.
But
something you were selling out the back of your car.
Exactly. We all know about that.
Which I have no more of, and I'm looking for one. Who did I sell one of those to? Because I need one.
I know the feeling. Trust me. But the one that we are that is most widely known as being your first project came out in 2010. It was called Water. And it's one that I tell a lot of people about. A lot of people kind of missed it because, your kind of big blow up happened probably around Be Good, which was the second album when you got on with Motema and, Jana Hertzen, was it? And so, everything changed after that. But that early album for me is it's a point where I connect with you on a very deep level. I still can't decide which of your albums is my favorite, but Water is really special to me in that you really do lean into that jazz idiom. It takes its time. There are long solo sections. The music is probing. You are bringing us into your life. It's a great starting point to begin to connect with who Gregory Porter is as a human being. So can you tell me, and of course, with the theme being water, I feel like this maybe has been a little bit of a theme through your music and maybe through your life. Can you tell us about the importance of that first album for us, Water. What does that album mean to you?
Well, I thought it was going to be, you know, I had wanted to make a record for a long time. I was looking for somebody to come and make me and turn me into something. It didn't have to be a star, but, you know, let me be a working musician. And at the point at which I said, well, I'm gonna have to do this myself, and in, you know, just just say who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, I didn't think there was going to be a second album and a third album and fourth album. I was just like, okay, this is the record I'm going to make, and this is the one I'll be selling out of my closet for some years. And so I just wanted to say who I am. And so that being true, I wanted to have a few standards, but I wanted to tell a musical story of my own. And yeah, and I think within me was both love and protest. And I think that's what that record, in a way, could have been titled, Water, Love and Protest. Because I love in all of its forms, but there's some protest in the music as well. I am firmly rooted in jazz, and this is in any music I do, I feel like a jazz singer, and I approach it as a jazz singer. But gospel music, soul, blues, all of these musics that are the diaspora of Black music, I use, I employ, and so yeah, that's what water was, and the theme of water that goes through quite a few of my productions. You know, my mother used to preach about water. She used to talk about its properties, and she, you know, it would be, you know, these metaphors for love was water, and so I got right on that bandwagon and started to do that with the music. Liquid Spirit is about love and about the spirit and about, you know, the greater love. So yeah, I keep doing it. I keep trying to find a way. No, it doesn't. It happens organically. I'm not finding a way. It happens organically. And that's what water was. I was like, I wrote some of those songs, and I was like, ooh, that came out of me with such alacrity and such truth that is absolutely me. Yeah. And how I felt about, you know, love and a broken heart. I realized when I write from personal experience, the truth comes out, and I don't have to fake it, not on the recording, but not in live performance. It becomes a real emotional experience because it's the truth. And so that happened with my first breakup, and it happened with me talking about the love that I have for my mother. And also, I became a songwriter when I first started to write songs about the pain I had about my father. And so that's what led me into songwriting. I was like, wow, I can write with such depth and really, really find my poetry when I'm writing about the pain that I have for my absent father. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I connect with what you do for a lot of reasons, but I think one of the things that I see in you that I recognize and that I connect with is this idea that, you know, as a lot of creative folks do, I do a lot of different things. And, you know, you're probably one of those people who your creativity is expressed in a variety of ways. What I feel that the through line is with the creative pursuits with which I am involved, that through line is storytelling. It's narrative for me, regardless of what I'm doing. If I'm making videos online, if I'm songwriting, if I'm singing, if I'm hosting a radio show or whatever I'm doing, the process I am engaged in is storytelling. And so for me, when I watch what you do, whether you're involved in an interview or you are performing or you're writing songs, you're telling stories. Essentially, that's the fundamental practice that I feel that you are engaged in. And so you do that like no other. You really do that like no other person whose music I have encountered before. When did you start to connect with that ability to tell stories? And first of all, do you see yourself fundamentally as a storyteller? Or do you define yourself in another way? And when did you realize that was the gift? Or well, I'm identifying it as your gift. Okay, let me just say that. When did you connect with that as being the gift?
Yeah. No, let me tell you another way that I escaped from that very kind, beautiful arrow that you just threw at me. the the way that I get away from it, from saying that, I say I'm a messenger,
Mm-hmm.
and that, so yes, I'm a storyteller, but it's a message, and that way I feel like, oh, okay, all of this talent and all of this blessing is not me. It's coming from some other place. The gifts from from heavenly inspiration. From I grew up quite shy and super humble, and my mother doubled down on that humility. She gave me, when it was time for humble pie, I got 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so in some way, it's a difficult thing to be a humble person and the out front leader of a band. You're not supposed to, but I found a way to express myself, and the gifts that I'm giving, the messages that I'm carrying, are the message sometimes of my people, the message of God, our universal love. So in some ways, I don't say that Gregory Porter is a force. I say there are forces that I'm telling you about. And in a way that absolves me from self-importance. It even gives me more material, so that way I can come out of myself and look at others and have empathy and write about that empathy, and write about some desire to help them or lift them up. It expands the story, it expands the things that I can talk about, and it's the truth within me. And so that I can really express about a song like Take Me to the Alley, or When Love Was King, or there's a song on Water called The Lonely One. I'm thinking about the most precious women in my life, my mother and my sister, and I watched them go through these relationships. And, and I imagined being that person, not the hero figure, but somebody who's there and who's solid, who believes in that woman, and who sees the scars on her face and the tracks of her tears. And so, I try to put myself in those lyrics, because that's who I am as a person as well. So
yeah. Well, who you are as a person. Another, way in which I connect with what you do is I feel like, and the reason that I identify you as a storyteller, another reason that I identify you as a storyteller is that from the beginning, we have understood a lot about your biography. Like I said, we identify you as someone who is of Bakersfield. You do a good job in a way that a lot of artists maybe struggle with, of communicating your biography, communicating your essence, communicating all of the forces that basically came together to make you who you are and to make your music what it is. I think I started to first connect with your music probably around 2012. And Be Good was kind of the end point for me. And then I went backwards and listened to Water, and then forwards, and it was Liquid Spirit, and, all the ones that came after that. But from the beginning, there has been, so much fundamentally that I've understood about you, both through the lyrics that you write, and then just watching interviews and, reading whatever I encountered. You find a way to communicate so much about who you are and where you come from. And I'll say that your story reminds me so much of my father's story. It reminds me of my own story, but it reminds me of my father's story. He was a music minister and a singer and a songwriter, and he had a mother who was, they called her Mother Grace Tucker, and she was a mother to the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And she ministered to the homeless and brought them into her home. She had a mission there. And, that Take Me to the Alley song, that is her. That is Mother Grace Tucker. And so your story feels deeply, deeply familiar to me. But then I also grew up, my grandmother came out of the Church of God in Christ, and she had to leave the Church of God in Christ because they would not let her pastor. So she was a pastor for 50, 60 years in Tulsa. This is what hey, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I understand your story. I connect with it. And this is what I want to know from
Yeah.
a personal point of view is that I know, how I grew up, which was through the lineage of the Church of God in Christ. She was more
Yeah.
so a Pentecostal holiness preacher. And
Yep.
I know that for me, when I entered into the world of jazz and doing what I do and singing and performing, it was a really big deal
Yep.
coming out of holiness and Pentecostal, that background to
Yeah.
be singing love songs and talking about
Yeah.
relationships. Did you
Yeah.
have that moment of like, what is, your family going, what is Gregory doing? What are you singing about? This is not, this ain't, this is not, maybe some people accusing you of not, coming from a spiritual standpoint. And what are you out there doing?
Well, two moments that I had, and I so remember them. Was I was with my mother and we were driving in the 70 something Cadillac Eldorado. And I had to be in 8 or 9 because I couldn't quite see over the dash properly. And she said to me, we were talking about singing. She must have called me her little songster because that's what she did. And we were talking about, I said, Mom, I don't know if I want to be a, you know, not just a, but I don't know if I want to just sing gospel music.
Hmm.
She said, I want to sing about love. And because I was probably singing love songs on the radio, whatever Stevie Wonder had going on at the moment. and um, and she said, baby, God made love, and
Mm.
it's okay to sing about it. And that was like I remember having this real pressure, because I remember being in church and singing, and the church mothers come up to you, baby, you sound good, but if you don't always sing for God, if you don't sing for God, He'll take it away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had these images. I was a little boy, 7, 8 years old. I had these images of like coughing up blood and losing my voice, and
Wow.
you know, but my mother she wasn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, sing about love. It's okay to sing about it. And that just kind of opened up and gave me a license. She gave me a license later on in my life, on her deathbed, on her last couple of days of life. I was trying to assure her that I wasn't going to do anything risky or silly, and I was going to finish my degree and just be straight and wear brown shoes and, stay out of trouble. And she was like, boy, don't you forget about your music, and that gave me license to really continue on the avenue of music. But yes, it really was, it's like some difficulty to and it's really internal difficulty. Yes, there is some exterior pressure, but really, you make the decision yourself. And quite frankly, I still struggle with it,
Hmm.
to do this so-called secular music. Because I am doing music that's for everybody and for the world, but it's a universal thing. It's a universal thing, and I make an effort to speak of even a spirituality and an understanding of God that every religion will understand. That this is what I feel. That every person, even a non-believer, can say, I don't know what that is, but it's powerful. You understand?
Right.
I want them to be curious,
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't want
absolutely.
to beat anybody over the head with my my belief in God, but it's there subtly in the background, even in a love song, it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's wonderful when people do pick up on that. And I think you don't necessarily have to have any particular belief system to connect with that thing. Now, I want to I want to engage in something that I would consider a no-no, and something that I'm not even really a big fan of myself. And that is asking you about the meaning of a specific song. Your
Okay.
songs, for me, in terms of your writing, can come off a little bit like puzzles, and this is one of the reasons that I feel like your songs are so sticky. And I feel like there are people who understand that that kind of writing exists, and they try it, and it feels contrived, and it's just it separates you from the song. But the way in which you write causes, at least my brain, and I'm sure many other people's brains, to have to do a little bit of work to get to that meaning underneath.
Uh-huh.
And I find myself over years, this is the reason that your music is listenable from, like I said, I was listening back in 2012, 2013. We're all the way in 2025, and I'm still listening to some of that stuff, and it still lights that fire and, scratches that itch in the way that it
Yeah.
did, 10 or 12 years ago.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
so I want to ask you kind of a two-part question. First of all, are you a fan of Langston Hughes? Do you read the poetry of Langston Hughes?
Yeah,
Because I almost
absolutely.
feel like a little bit of a Langston thing sometimes in your songwriting.
Mm.
So that's
Well,
a
I'm coming from a place of poetry for
yeah.
sure. But that license again sparked by my mother. She was a poet. I was told that my father was very much into poetry as well. But I read, poetry. I mean, that's probably the books that I most buy is poetry books. So yeah, but Langston Hughes is he's a master. But
Yeah.
continue on with your
Okay.
question. I'm sorry.
So the no part of the question is I want to
Yeah.
specifically want to ask you about Be Good. Can you talk to me about I understand this is a no, but I'm going to indulge myself just a little bit and ask you if you can talk to us about the meaning of that song.
Okay, this is interesting. I write with the idea of you know I happen to love impressionist painting where the sometimes you have to step back and sometimes you have to get up very close in order
Yeah.
to understand the painting, and it can have different interpretations. So I write that in a way, an idea of being impressionist, and not sometimes there's specificity, but sometimes there's not.
Mhm.
But Be Good is really it's a kind of a broken hearted song. It's a song about in a way being put in a friend box when you want it to be more. It's being hurt by the words or the actions of a woman. You're a man. You're this strong being. As I throw up quotes into the air, you're
Mhm.
this strong lion, but still there's this little beautiful dancer who can still, hurt you and break your heart and pull your tail and put you in a place where you didn't want to be. You wanted to be more because she's frightened of the type of love that you might bring. You're a lion. You express big and strong and bold and love. Maybe you love strong and your roar is loud. You dare not let it go there because you know it could be dangerous.
Yeah. Well, you
So
mentioned
I
that.
just is
Go
men
ahead.
respond to that song. A lot of men respond to that song, and but it was a lullaby that I wrote to myself as a grown man after being dumped, really, by a
Mhm.
dancer. Yeah.
Mm. Well, you mentioned that one and you mentioned the lonely one. And then I'm thinking about Wolf Cry. And these songs all feel similar in tone
Yeah.
and message to me. So the I guess the follow-up question to that would be, so when are dealing with the women who maybe don't appreciate you, don't see, the beauty of who you are and all of this stuff, the heartbreak and everything, did that begin to change when they saw your gift?
It's funny. all of them saw my gift, um, but nobody could see like my mother could see. You know, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you got a thing, but where's it gonna go? You got a funny hat, and you're getting older. You know, all of these deficits. What I was and what I could be. And even quite frankly, maybe I even internalized some of that. And it's like, yeah, maybe, maybe I was supposed to happen for me at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That moment has passed. Maybe I won't make it. And so, yeah, only after you start selling millions of records and get a few Grammys, then that old phone call comes and like, hey, what you doing now? It's like, I'm not. I can't believe I said that, but I said it. Yeah. So that did happen, but no, but really, also just trying to find a bit of poetry, trying to find a way to speak to the lonely one on both sides. The lonely one who may have been mistreated, or the lonely guy as well. I'm telling both of their stories in three of those songs that you mentioned. Wolf Cry, interesting you mentioned that. It's funny enough, it's very simple, but it's one of my favorite songs because that's happened to me several times in my life where I was the one to come along and be the confidence builder and be the good friend. It's that being that friend again, picking them up and helping them gain their confidence and their strength. And when that happens, then they go and use that confidence, that grace, that thing that I was like, hey, I pointed out. They were like, oh, now that you pointed this out, let me go use it. And I was like, no, you're using it the wrong way. So, yeah. This is really figuring. The funny thing is I'm not absolutely sure what it is when I'm writing these. And after the fact, I'm like, oh, that's me being that guy again. That's me, that person again.
Yeah.
The self-analysis is not happening while I'm writing the song. The song is song. So the self-analysis comes when I do interviews and somebody picks it up and does the analysis of this song, that song, and that song. But no, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely tapped into all the messages. Well, we're talking with Gregory Porter today. You know him, you have heard his music, you've connected with it, I'm sure, on many levels. I want to ask you, Gregory, in kind of the final moments of this interview, Nina Simone has a very famous quote now that we hear kind of bantied about quite a bit, especially in the times in which we live. And that is that an artist has a responsibility to speak to the times in which they live. And a lot of people, in this current age are understandably are hesitant to speak out, to make their opinions known, for fear of alienating, a good swath of their audience. I have seen various clips of you online, speaking your mind, letting folks know how you feel about this and that. You tend to be very diplomatic and very gracious within that process. But kind of where do you stand, I guess, in terms of speaking out about the current, political situation, social issues? What do you feel your responsibility is in that regard?
Yeah, we're in a strange time. I realize that. And I think, there's a lot of people's heads are spinning. We thought we were going in a direction of more openness and more and more rights, more flexibility of appreciating different cultures and better just an understanding of everybody.
Yeah.
And so this new, quite frankly, this new fervor and energy that right-wing politics has had, not just in America, but all over the world, is in a way, we always knew it was there. Quite frankly, Black people always talked about it,
Yeah.
and nobody believed us.
Yeah.
And now that it's here and in our face, it's shocking, but we knew it. We knew it
Mhm.
was there. And so for the artists, this is something I said years ago. If we as Black American people express ourselves in our music, all of us have to be at the table expressing our music. And when I say that, the entertainers have to be there, the extraordinary voices have to be there, but also the protest songwriters have to be there. Uh, those blues minded, social thinking people who may not sell millions of records. It may be a young Nina Simone. It may be a young Donny Hathaway, but they have to be there in order to speak the words of the people of the culture. I said that about jazz. I said there has to be a Black man who says something in the jazz arena
Hmm.
so that a 1960 What can be sang,
Hmm.
so that When Love Was King, so that a song like Take Me to the Alley, which applies to everybody, but it speaks to our culture as well.
Mhm.
There has to be somebody to sing the songs, the messages, the feeling of the Black church that supported the civil rights movement. That there has to, we have to be in the room. And so I felt that energy. That energy was propelling me early on in my career as well, and it still does.
Mhm.
I'm not political about it. I'm not trying to bash people in the head about it. I'm just saying, you know, we have to be at the table because jazz was one of the outlets of our expression.
Mhm.
People have the idea that jazz is just, you know, the music that's in the background, but this so much of it was protest music.
Yeah.
And that has to be still a part of the story that is being told. Yeah, I find myself when I write, I have to sometimes catch myself because I don't want to obsess about a particular subject, issue, even I don't want to obsess about a particular person. I have to step back and say, I'm not going to let this politician get so much in my head that
Right.
12 of the 13 songs of my album are going to be about him.
Right.
I can't do that. But I can write a song that I don't want to well, this interview is about me, so yeah, I can't go back to my song. When Love Was King expresses how I really feel, what I believe, and how I think a leader should rule.
Hmm.
Um, of hungry children first he'd think to pull their lives from the brink. I believe that. He told the meek to use, there's good qualities that we think a leader should have, and we have to express them and say it and sing it and talk about it. There's ways that we wish our leaders would inspire. We have to talk about that. I'm looking for some positives to the current situation. Right now, it's just all grievance, anger, uh, and revenge. And
Mhm.
at some point, you're going to have to inspire. At some point, you're going to have to make everybody feel good as though they belong.
Mhm.
At some point, the trick of anger is going to stop working.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like this conversation has really just been an extension of a conversation that you and I have been having for the last 12 or 13 years. I say selfishly and delusionally because your music has that impact. And the music, there's not songwriting from a lot of artists that has that effect on me. I will speak from a personal point of view. There are not many artists with whom I feel like I have been having a dialogue from the beginning. And I will tell you, I scrutinize your projects. They come out and I say, well, he ain't doing what he was doing here. And he didn't say, he didn't go deep like he did there. You know, I like the trios. No, I just want to hear his voice. I don't need all that extra. Like, I am invested to that degree and have been for quite some time.
You know, there was this, in the UK, there's, I can't remember his name, but he may still be. He was the editor of Jazzwise magazine. The first record they got of mine was 1960 What, and he was like, "Yeah, man, yeah." And because he heard 1960 What, he wasn't ready for any other thing that I did. He was like, "I don't want to hear no love songs. I want 1960 What over and over and over and over again."
Right. See, I want the Be Good album over and over and over again.
I was like, give it some time. Now, he was like, if it don't sound like 1960 What on the first chord, I was like, no, this is where you're wrong. It's like there's subtle protest in a whole bunch of those other songs that you think are love songs. Listen in another way. And so he was like, yeah, but this pie in the sky talk like you know, there will be no love this dying. Yeah. But listen, what the death of love is everywhere. I'm talking about the very thing that we're fighting against. Listen, it's in there. It's in there. The protest is subtle. This is my way. I mean, we have to, you know, we've devised a whole bunch of different ways to come at this thing. This wickedness and this evil and this hate. And we have to find clever and creative ways to get inside the spirit, the head of that beast and tenderize it. So there you go. I'm trying a whole bunch of ways.
The one thing I wish we had more time to talk about was just when you mentioned being a Black man in this space. And unfortunately and strangely, you have become a little bit of a unicorn in this day and age. I mean, I can point to a handful of other Black male artists who are out there doing this kind of music, but the genre has it's been taken over a bit by, you know, everybody else, and you all's voices are not being heard in the way that I feel that they should be right now. Certainly not in that protest space. So really, really wish we could have dug into that a little bit more. We'll just have to do it again.
Another time. There still is Black History Month, so we can do it then.
I will put in one request before you go.
Yeah.
If I've got one little beef, one little gripe, I want to hear, just as someone who's been there, like I said, since Water, since Be Good, you know, and, you know, all of that. I just love that, the purity of those albums. And I hope that you take time at some point in the near future to revisit that scaled down sound, because I feel like it's unique and it's not like anything else. I love the bigger sound. It's great. But I hope that you don't ever abandon, you know, just that quartet kind of thing, because it's just so special to hear you in that context.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, I listen to those records. I listen to Be Good, and I miss that as well. Just me and my guys. And no adornment, no, you know, nothing. Just me and the song. I hear you. I'm there. You know what it also is like, it's the record companies, you know, you can only do so much at a time. You can't, you know, I would love to rush 10 records in a, you know, like, let me make 4 records in a year. No, you can't do that. You know, so, but I feel you. I hear you. And I feel the same way too. I want to. It's due. It's time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I, Greg Bryant, you've met him too, but we've become,
Yeah. Great.
yes, like you remember Greg. Yeah. We've become slight friends with Chip Crawford, and I've done a couple of shows with him actually, and just what you all have and what you have developed. I almost see him as like a co-writer with you, and what you all have developed is just, it's beyond special. And
Yeah.
yeah, the way he's able to just breathe life into your songwriting is just, it's uncommon. And
Yeah.
yeah, just so special. So it's just an honor for me to have the chance to sit down and have a conversation like this with you. I have a million more questions in my head that unfortunately are going to have to go unanswered for now. But I hope you find time to come back on the front page and talk with us more about the work that you do.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
appreciate this conversation. It was more than the interview. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, of course, it's going to be with someone like you. But thank you so much, Gregory Porter, for being with us here on the front page. And we are going to be back right after this break to do a little bit of meditating on the conversation that we've just had. But you have a wonderful time with the rest of your tour. And thank you so much for joining us for Jazz Appreciation Month, Gregory Porter.
Thank you.